President Biden is holding his first in-person meeting with the leaders of Mexico and Canada today. He is hosting Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador at the White House for the North American Leaders Summit. Today marks the first meeting between the leaders of the United States, Canada, and Mexico since 2016. The summit comes shortly after President Biden reopened the northern and southern borders earlier this month. With few exceptions, only international travelers who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 can enter the U.S. Joining us now from Miami is CBS News correspondent Enrique Acevedo. Hi, Enrique. Great to see you. So, as we mentioned, this is the first time all three leaders are meeting in person since 2016. How much of today will be fence mending and how much will be actual policy?
Hi, Tanya. Well, officials from all sides made a point of saying this meeting will be mostly about re-energizing the strategic regional relationships that suffered one of their lowest points during the Trump administration, at least at an institutional level. In the case of the U.S.-Mexico bilateral relation, I would argue the last 4 years were some of the most difficult in a long history of disagreements and disputes. Mexico, in many ways, was used as a punching bag during the 2016 presidential campaign and remained a foe for most of the Trump administration, instead of being viewed as a partner, as an ally, and a neighbor. But the fact is, to answer your question, that both relations are vital to the U.S., to U.S. interests, and have a direct impact on the lives and the livelihoods of millions of Americans. The policy part gets done outside the room where the leaders are meeting, but it's more the product of those conversations rather than a force shaping them.
Right. And senior Biden administration officials say U.S. border policy will not be a primary focus of this summit, despite the lingering migration issues. That's because these leaders really want to concentrate on economic issues, correct?
Correct. I mean, immigration is a top priority for the Biden administration, given the unprecedented population displacement that we're seeing in the Western Hemisphere, and also the political pressures within the U.S. To manage this issue more effectively and with better results. President Biden, I think, recognizes these are three of the top destination countries for migrants and asylum seekers, not just in the region, but globally. And he wants to come up with a common approach, with a common plan. This is a bit of a shift from what we've seen in the past. This is where the change is, the change of focus from the U.S.-Mexico border to what these three governments can do together proactively to address root causes of migration, to create more legal pathways, and also to increase access to protection for victims of human trafficking.
And Enrique, although there will be a few quick pool sprays before the meetings, the three leaders will not hold a press conference. Why not?
Well, sharing the spotlight is not an easy thing, even for governments. And coordinating the message between three world leaders with very different personalities, different agendas, and in this case, three different languages, I think can be challenging. That's not an excuse for the lack of openness, the lack of accountability that we're seeing, but it's probably part of the reason why we're not having that joint press conference. I would also look, and you mentioned this before going to the commercial break, at what's not being discussed in this summit as another reason to avoid questions from reporters. And that's mainly the topic of security cooperation. The summit, the North American Leaders Summit, which is now in its 9th edition, was created to address also shared security concerns after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And this is not being addressed today, at least not officially, according to what we've heard from the White House. Back in October, Secretary Blinken visited Mexico to hold the first high-level U.S.-Mexico security dialogue. That happened after DEA agents arrested the former head of the Mexican military, Salvador Cienfuegos, in 2018, which infuriated the Mexican government and really strained ties on security cooperation. We've heard recently the head of the DEA complaining that Mexico was in many ways dragging its feet to approve visas for agents, DEA agents working in that country. So, I think the truth is that security cooperation is a crucial part of the regional dynamic, especially now with all the threats and the dangers involved, including the unprecedented increase in the number of deaths related to drug overdose in the U.S.
And of course, Enrique, this meeting comes after the previous administration replaced NAFTA with the USMCA agreement. You know, how much will this summit focus on trade and on that new agreement, whether there need to be any tweaks to that or not?
This is such a good question, Tanya, because it speaks to the heart of what the summit was created for, which is regional integration. People don't like to accept that, but I think that's at the heart of the summit. That means economic cooperation is not just about trade, but about producing together. And the USMCA agreement was more about strengthening the regional supply chains and making them resilient for the type of global disruption that we're seeing right now with the effects of COVID-19 and the concerns about China. I think everyone can see that clearly, the opportunity for the region. The question is whether the three governments, these three leaders, are willing to make the hard decisions needed to move forward. There are profound questions in Canada and the US about López Obrador's energy policy, the overall investment climate in Mexico, and there are legitimate concerns also from Canada and Mexico about the supercharged political climate in the US and what that can do to relations with both countries and the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of questions, and reporters will also have a lot of questions as soon as the summit ends. All right. Well, Enrique Acevedo, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.